Hey guys, so I already mentioned kind of the Alexander the Great stuff, so let me go back to Athens and Sparta. We talked about a lot of the differences, including that Sparta was more military and Athens was more all about education and stuff. For example, Sparta was trained their boys from age 7, and they had to serve in the military for about 20 years. They were trained for about 13 years. And then Athens, instead of doing military stuff, they still did, but they also did like music and mathematics and all different kinds of stuff for education. And they were very different politically. Athens was democracy. Sparta was oligarchy. Sparta also had more rights for women, and Athens had less rights for women. So we went over that. I'm not going to go into it, but that all led up to the Peloponnesian War. So after the Persian Wars, Athens formed an alliance with some city-states. And if you don't know what an alliance is, it's basically nations that are formed into a group so that they can achieve a goal. And Athens formed the Delian League. It's called the Delian League because they take all the money from everybody to build up like navies and stuff like that. And they put it on an island called Delos. And that's why it's called the Delian League. They all agreed to help defend each other, protect trade in the Aegean Sea, and they kept all their money on Delos. However, as we'll see in a second, it turned out not so great. The other league that happens is Sparta forms their own little league called the Peloponnesian League. That we'll talk about these two quickly, and then we'll go into the war. So as you can see, the orange, yellowish color over here is like all of the Athens places, and then the green places are all Sparta, and then this darker orange is allied with Athens, but not necessarily in the league. All right, so there were about 150 different city-states in the Delian League. They all started out pretty good. However, when Athens kind of took over, they were like, oh, we have the best navy, we're going to take everything up. And they were the strongest member, and as a result, the Athenians basically began to treat everybody else terribly. Like, for example, they refused to let people or members quit the league. They forced others to join the league. They used the money to pay for buildings in Athens as opposed to protecting people and things like that. And that made a lot of the members unhappy. And what they did is form their own little Peloponnesian League, mostly with city-states and not in the Delian League, but some did kind of go with them. And it was Sparta who kind of started this. And they did this because they were afraid of Athenian power, and they wanted to stop Athens' empire kind of from growing. And the last kind of straw was that Athens put a trade ban on the city of Megara, and people really, really, really didn't like that within their own league and in the Peloponnesian League, and that led to a war called the Peloponnesian War. And basically what happened in 431 BCE, the Spartan army marched to Athens. They surrounded the city, waiting the Athenians to come out and fight. But the Athenians stayed in the city. They had walled their city, and it went all the way down to the port where the water was. And they thought that the Spartans would just leave, but they didn't. The Spartans burned all of their crops, hoping that they would run out of food, what's called a land siege, or starve to death. But the Athenians, again, built the wall all the way to the port, so they were able to bring plenty of food to the city by trading with others, because Sparta didn't have a navy. At the same time, unfortunately, about a year later, a disease comes into Athens and kills a bunch of people, so they had to come out, and they had to fight, and they had to kind of deal with that kind of stuff. It was about 10 years until a truce or peace agreement was given. Unfortunately, a few years after that, Athens tried again to expand its empire. It sent its army and navy to conquer the island of Sicily. They failed because the entire Athenian army was defeated by the allies of Sparta and Sicily. What's even worse is that the Persian Empire gave money and weapons and stuff to Sparta to stop Athens, and it basically they had to surrender because they didn't have enough food, they didn't have enough anything, and they forced Athens to give up its democratic control or government. This overall would hurt most of Greece. The city-states would basically lose out on a bunch of power. The constant fighting between the city-states opened the door for another person named Alexander the Great to come in and start taking over Greece and other places as well. And that's kind of the legacy of the Peloponnesian War. Again, Athens versus Sparta. Sparta wins. And it's about 30 years how long the thing is. I had you guys do a timeline, and I had you guys answer this question as well. Most of you guys said that it was pretty bad for Greece, and they shouldn't have done it. So if you didn't get the if you didn't get the notes, make sure you get it all done.